But as unfortunate as it was, the rainbow strips just kept coming, one after another lashing out at me, and Rebecca was quick to take advantage of my distraction in the moment. In a flash of pink, she appeared beside me, muttering another one of those short incantations and giving me a blast right to the helmet. Like a heavy punch, it set me back, rolling over myself for a moment. As I hit the ground and finally started to pick myself back up, just getting hit a few more times with that rainbow lash. Flurried bursts of energy from each impact, every one of them being felt right through the armor. After about 3 of them, I managed to roll out of the way, scrambling back to my feet as fast as I could and returning to a running pace, trying to keep on the move. I cut through a few of the strips, but the strips just kept coming. As long as that bird was in the air flying around, there'd be no end to them. I thought it might be a little bit easier to keep track of it with it leaving all those strips behind it, but with the flurry of them everywhere, it just got lost in the mix. It was hard to try to pinpoint where it was, and trying to have to keep an eye on Rebecca too just seemed like too much. And then I even had to divide focus. I kept the heavy metal stars spinning, flying around, cutting through small segments of strip here and there, but it was no good. The bird made them faster than I could cut them, and the segments that vanished when I did weren't big enough, at least not enough to have any serious impact. All it did was slow the progress. As I dashed around, trying to keep my mind focused on all of these things, which was definitely a juggling act, no doubt about it. An idea started to come to mind. I don't have to beat the bird. I have to beat Rebecca. If I knock her out of the game, this will be a much easier task. But even that is easier said than done. She can teleport at will. She's lightning fast. Simply catching her with the liquid steel isn't an option, at least not in a direct way. I have to catch her off guard, but even then, I still have this freaking bird to deal with. But if I'm able to do it, it just might win this fight. But there were still problems with the plan. Mainly, Rebecca. I needed to be able to one-stroke this, to take her out in a single move. But I don't want to kill her. I know she's half vampire, but I really don't understand what that means. How much can she take? It was about that point that I figured, what the hell? She's been pretty chatty. Maybe I could use it to my advantage. Who knows? She might just tell me. "Hey, Rebecca," I shouted, still in a mad dash, circling around in every direction, trying to dodge strips left and right, jumping over them, rolling, ducking, dodging, left, right, up, and down. It was a constant attack from every direction. "You know," I shouted, "I think I finally figured out how to beat you." Rebecca just giggled to herself for a moment. "Really? That's what you're going with? Because right now, it doesn't look like you're going to be able to beat anyone. I mean, you can barely handle Felicia, and I can tell that you're struggling to keep an eye on me. So I really don't see how you're going to pull off a win." Well, I replied, still running about furiously. "I have a plan, but there's a problem with it. You see, I don't want to kill you. If you were a normal human, I'd say there was no way that this plan would work without killing you. But you're a half vampire, so it might be plausible. But I'm uncertain as to whether I want to take the chance. So I was wondering if you could answer a few questions for me, so I know whether or not this is going to work without killing you." Rebecca seemed to have a curious and somewhat joyful expression on her face. You know, most people don't tell their adversaries they have a plan to beat them. It's kind of a strange thing to do, you know, she said with a gentle smile, watching me dash about. But it's very sweet that you're concerned. So you know what? Go ahead. Ask away. As long as it doesn't disadvantage me, I suppose I could give you a lesson on half-blood vampires. Thanks, I said, as I narrowly ducked another one of the rainbows coming right in my direction. Okay, first question. Do half-blood vampires need to breathe? Interesting question, Rebecca replied, putting her hands behind her back as she watched me run about. Well, as a matter of fact, we do have to breathe. We are living people after all. If I were a full-blood vampire, of course I wouldn't need to. But being a half-blood vampire is different. I do need to breathe. However, I don't need to breathe as much as a normal person. I can actually hold my breath for about an hour or so before I need to take another one. Okay, I replied. Good to know. Next question, I said as a group of the rainbow strips began to converge on me. Luckily, the heavy metal star was close enough that I was able to send it cutting through them, just in time to not get snared, as they were beginning to act like traps, circling my location, closing in on all sides, like they were gonna wrap me up like a massive rainbow snake. My next question is, exactly how durable are you? If I were to say, drop a boulder on top of you, would it actually kill you? Rebecca laughed a little bit, trying to cover her mouth as she did. Well, that seems a silly question. There aren't any boulders out here, so I don't think you can drop one on me. But for the sake of brevity, I suppose, it all depends on density. A vampire's body is extremely durable, and a half-blood vampire is much the same. It all depends on what you're dropping on us. We can withstand an extraordinary amount of weight without actually being crushed, so long as the object on top of us isn't dense enough to crush us into, well, a fine paste or so. We should survive, Rebecca said, as she placed her finger to her chin, looking up into the air and thinking about it for a moment. I still can't seem to guess what your little plan is. I mean, there aren't any boulders, and it's not like there's water for you to drown me in. And there's no way you're gonna catch me with that liquid metal stuff. So, Heavy Metal Knight, what's the plan? Well, if I told you, I replied, juking another few rainbow strips, this time actually taking a hit, and having to roll over once or twice before recatching myself and starting back off in my run. I am so lucky this armor is more flexible than my old suit. I was probably more than twice as fast in this thing than I was in my original suit. Once again, I have to thank Ned for this. If it wasn't for his little inspirational design, I'd still be a walking target. But even with all this armor, I can still move freely. Barely affects my speed at all. I guess that's just a good design. But never mind that. Right now, it's time to put my plan into action. I pulled all the liquid steel back to me, changing it from the heavy metal star. Okay, Rebecca, thanks for answering my questions. Now I'm reasonably certain that this won't kill you. It'll probably hurt like hell though, and I am a bit sorry for that. And it all starts with this, I said, raising one of my hands as I ran. Heavy metal anchor, I said, creating a gigantic spike, and then nailing it into the ground until the very top of it was barely sticking out, and pulling from it a very fine thread.